How's it going, guys? Randall aka Shizakats here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel to bring you guys our 8-door deck profile for the Quintessential Quintuplets movie set. While 8-door is definitely playable as an Itsuki waifu deck, as we've looked at in our waifu deck overview video, there are a few cards from some of the other girls that you may want to include in your deck, which we will be detailing today. As Tressa's resident Itsuki fan, I've been playing this deck in JP for quite a bit already, so I'm especially excited to get into this deck profile. Let's get started. Decks based around Itsuki cards revolve around 3 themes: having a lot of cards in hand, meeting experience requirements for powerful effects, and utilizing act abilities to gain additional power or other benefits. Our level 1 advantage combo embodies all of these themes perfectly, the Itsuki from set 2. With experience 2, we can use her Climax combo with Door on attack, discarding 1 card to look at up to 3 cards from the top of the deck, and adding all Quints characters from among them to our hand. This allows Itsuki to get us a +2 per copy resolved, assuming all 3 of the cards are valid targets. Additionally, she gets +1500 power until end of turn when we use an act ability, bringing her up to 7k power with Climax. With multiple copies of Itsuki, we're able to add tons of cards to our hand, while simultaneously speeding through our deck. Alongside our level 1 combo, we have a new utility card from the movie set that is specifically made to support this combo, which is this new level 1 Itsuki. On play, you can discard 1 card to search your deck for a copy of the level 1 combo and add it to your hand, securing you a copy without even requiring any stock expenditure. Additionally, as an act ability, she can pay 1 and sack herself to mill 2, add up the levels of the milled cards, and then salvage a character of equal or lower level. This allows you to grab 2 copies of your level 1 combo with just this 1 card, assuming you hit 1 or higher on the mill 2. But otherwise, this card can help you easily set up your ideal back row pair for the rest of the game. As a last neat trick, if you need to mill a bunch, she can salvage herself over and over if you can keep hitting level 1 or higher. Our level 3 finisher is the new Itsuki from the movie set. When she's placed on stage from hand, she gets +1500 power until end of turn, and we get to dig through the top 3 cards of our deck. This allows her to easily find the Climax for her combo, or if you already have it, add extra cards to hand that you can discard for her combo's cost. The Climax combo itself requires experience 6. On attack, discard 3, burn 3, and then look at the top 2 cards of the opponent's deck, leave whichever cards you want on top of their deck in any order, and send the remaining cards to waiting room. This means that if you see any Climaxes amongst those top 2, you get to send them to the waiting room and leave the clean damage on top. This Itsuki has a lot of lethal potential, already having 2 instances of damage between her burn 3 and her soul damage, and also being able to rip Climaxes out of the opponent's top 2 if they're unlucky, which essentially equates to additional instances of damage. Additionally, she doesn't cost any additional stock outside of putting her into play, so we can spend any extra stock we have liberally on other things. However, she doesn't heal, making her endgame very all-in. Thankfully, we have a lot of early play healers that we can utilize prior to level 3 in order to keep ourselves in a relatively safe spot. Onto the level 0 line, starting with the level 0 4K Beater, a box topper promo from set 2. This is a card that took a bit of time to start trending on the JP side, but has since become a staple in the level 0 lineup for this deck. She sits at 1k base power, but on play lets you marker the top card of the deck if it's a Quints character or an event, going up to 4k power in the process. Apart from being a great early game beat stick, it also gives great utility as well. For example, if you play this card before using a brainstorm, you can artificially create a 5-card brainstorm by taking a miss off of the top of the deck. Additionally, this card also has great synergy with a level 1 Itsuki that we'll look at in a bit. In worst cases, you can use this card to confirm the top card of your deck is a clean trigger when you go into your attacks. Up next is a 1 of Itsuki RR from set 2. This card is a runaway runner, that is, she can run away to an empty front row slot if the opponent puts a character across from her. Additionally, while you have a full board of Quintuplets characters, she can also be used in your hand as a 2k backup. This card has fallen out of favor recently due to her inability to kill basically anything at level 0, and the fact that decks with huge boards such as Alice can prevent you from using her as a backup, since it's unlikely you will be able to keep a full board of 5 characters in order to keep the ability online. That being said, we're still running 1 copy as a backup turn 1 play in case we don't open the 4k beater, and she can still be used as a backup against decks that don't have gigantic boards. Next up is a powerful new level 0 from the movie set, the Itsuki Riki. When placed on stage from hand, you can pay 1 and clock an Itsuki from your waiting room to search your deck for a level 1 or lower Itsuki, giving you great consistency in finding early game pieces. The fact that she clocks from the waiting room rather than from the top of your deck also allows you to more easily meet experience requirements by clocking high-level Itsuki cards from your waiting room. Additionally, once per turn, when you use an act ability, she gets +1 soul until the end of the turn, allowing for some serious aggression even without a climax. This is a card that you're always happy to see in the early game, and as such, we're running a full 4 copies. Next is a 1-of RR Itsuki from set 1. She's both a level 0 reverser as well as a Fukujiro. That is, when sent from stage to waiting room, you can discard 1 to look at up to 4 cards from the top of the deck, add up to 1 level 1 or higher card from among them to your hand, and send the rest to waiting room. Having access to a flexible, costless milling option is always nice, and this card can also trade 1 for 1 in the early game using its reverser effect. Being able to add extra targets to your waiting room to pick up off of salvage effects such as door triggers is a nice bonus as well. Overall, this ended up being kind of a filler slot within the level 0 line. The card itself is perfectly fine, but you can flex into other options depending on your liking. Now on to the back row. In Itsuki decks, we get to play some really strong back row that break the normal rules of Weiss Schwarz. Both of the level 0s we're about to look at give you +1 hand size while they're on stage. So if you have a pair in the back row, you can have 9 hand size instead of the normal 7. The first of the two is this new level 0 from the movie set. You can pay 1 and rest her to give one of your characters on reverse salvage until the end of the turn, giving you a guaranteed source of hand size, and also some much needed waiting room selectivity that doesn't require you triggering a door climax. However, that isn't all she does. With experience 3, you can rest her to give one of your characters +2k power until end of turn, which is a pretty substantial buff. This effect allows you to proc on-act abilities such as your level 1 combo without needing to pay any stock, which is very powerful. Also, as one more tip, you don't actually need experience 3 to use the buff effect. You only need the experience to give 2k power, so you can still rest this card to do nothing and still proc your on-act abilities. This is especially useful at level 0 if you want to make the Itsuki Riki have +1 soul. The other back row in the deck is the Brainstorm from set 2. In addition to the previously mentioned +1 hand size, her Brainstorm is a rest self search, which only hits on door climaxes. And she has an assist ability. During your turn, if you have 5 or more hand, she gives +500 power to characters in front of her. While both of these cards are very important back row pieces, I tend to prioritize the 2k buffer first, as it can give guaranteed card advantage with the pay 1 rest self ability, and it can also proc on act abilities for free. Closing out the level 0 line, we have a couple 1-of utilities. First is the new Itsuki Drop Search. On play, you can pay 1 discard 1 to search your deck for a Quints character to add to hand, and also on play, if you have experience 2, you can look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 1 of them to your hand without showing your opponent, send the rest to waiting room, and discard 1 card. This is a fantastic double utility option, and with the second effect, you can actually grab climaxes since it doesn't specify what kind of card you need to add to your hand. That ability also gives you a small bit of costless flexible mill if you need it. Finally, we have a 1-of Ichika Climax Swapper, the first non-Itsuki card of the deck. This is widely considered to be the best Climax Swapper available in Quints, with her second ability of on play, you may put a card from hand to stock, being very valuable. While Itsuki is a deck that wants to prioritize having a ton of hand, having the option to convert 1 hand to secure the correct climax for a level 1 combo turn can result in a lot more card advantage down the line. Now onto the level 1s. Here we have another powerful new Itsuki out of the movie set, whose abilities are very similar to the level 1 Mel from Hololive. Once per turn, when you use an act ability, she gains the following effect until end of turn. When she attacks, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a level 1 or higher, send it to stock. This ability has great synergy with our 4K marker beater, since putting the marker underneath her is optional. If you reveal the top card of your deck and it's a level 1 or higher, you can just leave it there and attack with this level 1 Itsuki first, and guarantee yourself a bonus stock. Her second ability also activates when you use an act ability, giving her additional power until end of turn. If you have a full board of 5 Itsukis, she can gain up to 2500 extra power, since she counts herself. Not only does this make her a remarkable attacker, but it also makes her quite formidable on defense, since she can be 7k plus backup, which usually puts her at around 9000 power. We're also running 2 copies of the 1/1 Itsuki Memory Bomb. which is a very useful tool in the current metagame for combating popular decks like Alice Sword Art Online or Standby Nino Quints. Use this effect to permanently remove some of your opponent's most important characters. She has a second effect that can be used at level 3, which stacks herself to either move one of your opponent's characters or swap 2 of your opponent's characters, but that requires us to lose out on a card that could be used for finisher costs, and killing our opponent's back row is of less priority than killing our opponent. Finishing off our level 1 line are 2 counters, which we can use to proc the on-act power boost of our Itsukis, making them strong on defense. The first is a 2k counter from the Quintessential set. Unlike the level 0 counter, this one doesn't require a full board to be used, making it the best overall counter to look for at level 1 if you want to prioritize raw defensive power. The second counter I run is a utility counter. While it only gives 1500 power when used, it also mills cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of Itsukis you have on stage. This is an extremely useful card to grab when you're out a lot of climaxes, especially if you trigger the last one and you can salvage this off of the door effect. Onto the level 2s, we have 2 copies of this new 2/1 Itsuki. She sits at 7000 base power and has a pair of exceptional abilities. The first effect requires experience 5. During your turn, she gets plus 5500 power, bringing her up to 12.5, and when she reverses a character in battle, you can send the top card of the opponent's clock to waiting room to send their reversed character to clock. This makes her a prime removal tool and a fantastic option against decks that the 1/1 Memory Bomb Itsuki is also good against, such as Alice and Nino. Her second effect makes her a really good card to have in your hand going into your finisher turn. When she's placed on stage from hand, you can pay 1, discard 1 to search your deck for a door climax. This serves as extra insurance in cases where your level 3 Itsuki's top check 3 effects don't find you the climax for the combo. Our other level 2 in the deck is a 1 of anti-change Nino counter. We can use her anti-change effect while we have 4 or more Quints characters on board and sending the opponent's character to waiting room. For level 3s, we have 2 different early play healers. First up is the new red one from the movie set. She can be early played if you have 2 or fewer climaxes in waiting room, and on play you can discard an Itsuki to heal the top card of your clock to hand. Normally when you clock for turn, you would want to clock something that you don't need anymore. However, because this card adds the top card of your clock to hand, you should be clocking something that you will definitely still want in your hand later on, such as your level 3 finisher. Her last effect procs on act, giving her 500 power times the number of other Itsukis on your stage until end of turn, giving her up to 2000 extra power. The other early play healer in the deck is the green one from set 2. She can be early played while you have 4 or more Itsukis on board and is a standard healer. Additionally, she also gains an ability until the end of the opponent's next turn. At the start of the opponent's attack phase, you can choose one of your opponent's characters, and until the end of that turn, the chosen character cannot become reversed. This can be used in multiple ways, with the most obvious being preventing your opponent from using an anti-change bomb against her, such as the 1/1 Itsuki we run in our own deck. They can't use their bomb effects if they don't get reversed first after all. Another cool way you can use this effect is to prevent your opponent from crashing a weak character into your board, so that you can utilize the on-reverse salvage effect granted by the level 0 Itsuki on your next turn, guaranteeing you a +1 in card advantage. Her last effect is on act gain 3k power until end of turn, which brings her up to a respectable 11k power before any external boosts. Now that we've gone through all the cards, let's get into the strategy. In the mulligan, you want to put at least 1 Itsuki into your waiting room. Normally, this is just so that you can trigger an early door climax and have a valid target to salvage. But in this deck, there's actually an additional reason that we specifically want to be discarding an Itsuki character. You cannot legally use the effect of the Itsuki Riki unless you already have an Itsuki in waiting room to send to clock for cost, even if the stock that you would pay out is an Itsuki. Also, you will want to try to have a level 3 in hand to clock for the experience requirements. In set 2 builds, you only needed experience 2 by level 1, since your only experience card was the level 1 combo. But in this build, you really want to try to get a level 3 into your level zone if possible, since the new level 0 back row needs experience 3 to give a 2k buff. If you have an Itsuki Riki in your opening hand, you can consider mulliganing your level 3 away, since the Itsuki Riki would allow you to clock it from your waiting room as cost. But I would probably only recommend doing this if you're going first, or if you're against a deck that wants to play a very slow level 0 game. At level 1, ideally you're able to field multiple copies of the level 1 combo and fill your hand full of options for your future turns. Any slots that you aren't attacking with level 1 combos are ideally filled in with the level 1 Mel Itsuki, potentially netting you some extra stock. Your first deck rotation can be quite polarizing depending on where your climaxes end up. If you draw or trigger a lot of early climaxes, or you cancel a lot, this actually makes it easier for you to hit on your level 1 combo. However, the opposite is also true. If you don't see a lot of climaxes early and eat a lot of early damage as a result, this can snowball into a really bad game state where your level 1 combo sees a ton of climaxes and you get very few cards actually getting added to your hand. The level 1 combo itself is also polarizing in another way. If the combo doesn't see any climaxes, you have a higher chance to trigger a climax, resulting in getting a ton of cards with some additional selectivity, and potentially even going overhand despite your 9-card hand size limit. However, if the combo does see climaxes, you have a lower chance to trigger climaxes, making your hand size and selectivity significantly worse. For this reason, I think it's very important to prioritize the level 0 back row, as the ability to give on reverse salvage is the sole constant throughout the level 1 game plan, giving you a guaranteed card that is exactly the one you want. Some games I even try to go for 2 copies of this back row instead of going for a brainstorm, because I value the selectivity and guaranteed advantage that much. At level 2, ideally you're able to stay at level 2 for a while by using your early play healers to stay healthy. This is especially important since your level 3 combo doesn't heal. You should try to prioritize having enough resources for your Itsuki combos, in terms of both stock and hand size. You will want to try to maintain 6 stock to use on triple Itsuki combo going into level 3, but having extra stock to use on cards like the 2-1 Itsuki or level 0 back row can be good as well. At level 3, there's basically only one thing left to do, and that's to play your level 3 combos and try to kill your opponent. Going into your finisher turn, you would need to start the turn with 8 cards in hand if you want to cleanly resolve triple combo. You can draw for turn and clock to go to 10, each Itsuki will replace herself with a new card allowing you to maintain 10 cards in hand, you play the climax to go down to 9, and then each Itsuki will discard 3 cards. If you have extra stock, you can use the level 0 Itsuki back row to give on reverse salvage, reducing the number of cards you need to hold from the turn before by 1. For level priority, you always want to level red first if possible, since that's the color needed for our entire level 1 line. The ideal leveling target is the red early play healer, but don't be afraid to level a copy of your finisher combo if you have to. After red is green, and of course the ideal level target is the green early play healer, but the 2-1 makes a solid backup, allowing you to still hit experience 5 for the second copy of the 2-1, and at that point, you just need to level 1 more experience to get the experience 6 needed for your level 3 finisher. Next, let's talk about some of the alternative options that you can consider running in the deck, as there are quite a few of them that I've tried throughout my testing in JP. First up is this level 0 Miku. This card is almost exact same as the box topper PR and is, in my opinion, the best replacement if you don't want to shell out $10 a piece for them. However, this card also makes a great choice alongside the box topper PR for a really fat early game board. Just like the PR, she top checks for a marker and gains additional power if she has a marker. However, she only goes up to 3500 instead of 4k, and instead gains an on reverse ability to salvage 1 and discard 1. This allows you to mulligan more aggressively, since you can pick up cards you mulliganed away with her on reverse effect. Additionally, she synergizes with the level 1 Itsuki and brainstorms in the same way that the 4k PR does. The downside to running this card is that she's not an Itsuki, so she gives your 1-0 and 3-2 red early play 500 less power when you use an act ability. Having her on board also prevents you from early playing the green level 3 Itsuki, and she cannot be searched from the deck nor clocked for costs by the Itsuki Riki. The next card I want to take a look at is the Set 1 Itsuki Salvage Brainstorm. This deck doesn't have a lot of waiting room selectivity during the main phase, with basically your only option being the level 1 Itsuki that grabs your level 1 combo from the deck. Running the Salvage Brainstorm gives you more on-demand waiting room access, and is also significantly better than Search Brainstorm in low-roll games, where you take a ton of early damage and still have a lot of climaxes left in a very small deck. By running this over the Search Brainstorm, you give up the assist 500 during your turn as well as the +1 hand size, but 8 cards in hand is often enough to get the job done anyway, since you still have the +1 hand size from the other level 0 back row. You also gain the benefit of assigning +1 soul anytime you play a door climax, which is great for playing aggressively throughout the game, and can sometimes result in some cheeky endgame plays, where you side attack your opponent's level 3 for 1 damage, look at the top 2 with the climax combo, and confirm your victory on the spot when you leave clean cards on top of their deck. Another option to look at is this level 0 Yotsuba, which offers double utility. She is both a drop search and a drop salvage, giving you more main phase waiting room selectivity, which we already mentioned the deck is lacking. If you want to include this card in your deck, you could potentially run it over the level 0 Fukujiro, which I already mentioned is kind of a flex slot, or if you want to swap roll for roll, you could play this card over the Itsuki Drop Search, giving up the ability to dig 2 cards for climaxes, but giving you that all-important drop salvage. However, this card also isn't an Itsuki and runs into the same problems as the level 0 Miku, so if you want to play a drop salvage while still maintaining Itsuki name, you could run the level 0 Itsuki from the Quintessential set as yet another alternative. A level 1 option to consider is the Reverser PR, which is a June shop tournament promo. Apart from being a level 1 Reverser, they have the on-play effect of discarding 1 card to search your deck for any level 0 and put it directly on your stage, which allows you to easily set up your back row. Additionally, since it's a Reverser, it synergizes well with the level 0 Itsukis on reverse salvage, since you can guarantee that the effect will go off by reversing your opponent's character with your effect. I personally run this as a one of. It's not a great card into decks like Alice that field a ton of level 2s, but in metagames where decks like Alice aren't prevalent, you can run this over one of your 1/1 memory bombs. At level 2, you have the option of running the 2/1 Code Words event from set 2 as an additional main phase salvage option. This card not only gives you waiting room access, but potentially results in a +1, letting you salvage 2 cards for just 1 event. This event doesn't disrupt the normal flow of the deck, since it can be grabbed off the level 1 combo, and it still counts as a hit for the level 0 marker beaters since they both check the top card for a Quints character or an event. However, this card does get marginally worse the more non-Itsuki cards you run in your deck, so just keep that in mind if you want to include this alongside some of the other alternative options that we talked about earlier. For my final alternative suggestion, we have the level 3 Itsuki off Climax finisher from set 3. This card is an 11k healer with experience 6, and also has on attack pay 3 discard a Quints character to burn 2. For games where your hand size isn't going so great, this card makes a pretty nice accompaniment to a pair of Itsuki combos, while also adding a bit of healing to your top end. It also gives you a backup plan in case you aren't able to secure that level 3 climax for whatever reason. When the movie set first came out in JP, people were playing this over the green early play healer, while nowadays you see this being played alongside it, or not at all. Alright, it's been a long one, but thanks for watching our deck profile on 8-door Quintessential Quintuplets. This is just one of many viable builds for Quints in this set, so be sure to try out lots of different decks with all of the powerful new options that we've been given. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, and until next time, this has been Randall aka Shizukats on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. See ya!